I want to think just for a moment with you about the new age of philanthropy that you seem to be one of the sort of key advocates of. You and Warren Buffett together have asked billionaires, particularly in the US, but I think you're trying to take it around the world, asked billionaires to make a public giving pledge, to pledge that either during their lifetimes or after their death, they'll give at least half of their wealth, their assets, to charitable philanthropic causes. Is that working? Are you getting enough people on side?
Well, it's quite amazing, way beyond any expectation we had, that over 69 people in the United States have joined this giving pledge activity. The fact is, we think a lot of people miss the opportunity to do philanthropy, to do it younger, to get more engaged, to give a higher percentage of their money to it. And part of that is it's not easy to learn. You know, everybody has a cause, but who do you talk to who's had a similar experience and can really share that overall it's a fun, very positive thing? And so our group is to learn from each other, and that's gone extremely well.
Has the scale of your wealth, and let's not forget at one point, you know, with Microsoft's share price, you were worth, on paper, more than $100 billion. It's a bit less now. But has the scale of your wealth made you, in your life, uncomfortable?
Well, there's benefits that come with wealth. It's not all positive, but I certainly feel like I'm a very lucky person in terms of the kind of work I get to do, the great people I get to meet. You know,
Did you ever think, this is ridiculous, this is just too much, I actually don't want to be identified as the world's richest man?
Well, if I hadn't given money to my foundation, I'd still have to deal with that. As it is, I gave enough away that I'm no longer in that position.
No, you no longer are. You're still incredibly wealthy by any standard. And I just, again, on this sort of personal reflection, do you think it is important that your children, you have 3 kids, is it important that they are never in a position where they can rely on your wealth?
Well, they've been told that the wealth is overwhelmingly going to the foundation, and that, you know, that's my full-time work. My wife, Melinda, works hard on this as well, and so they understand that they'll have to find their own way. Now, they're getting a lot of privileges. They get to go to a great school. They get to travel the world. You know, so they'll have a nice leg up. But they won't have enough money to just sit around and do nothing. We don't think that would be good for them or for society. So
yours is a private form of redistribution. You've decided to take your vast wealth and distribute it to what you see as the most worthy causes. Do you think, you know, in the United States, government should be much more in the business of redistribution, essentially through the tax system, than it currently is?
Well, there's all sorts of different levels you can set taxes at, and you know, some of the taxes, yeah, I have opinions they could be higher or something like that. In general, I believe in a capitalistic system. So the extreme notion of, okay, let's, you know, tax the rich out of existence, no, I think that destroys incentives.
I wonder whether some of the ideas you've discussed with me about philanthropy, do they apply in the newly powerful growth economies, thinking China, India, where you and Warren Buffett have been, and you've met with billionaires, and there are many of them now, and tried to persuade them to join your giving pledge as well? Is the message translating?
Well, I think there'll be some fantastic philanthropists in both of those countries. What we see is that a first-generation fortune is the most likely to be given away. That is, once a fortune's inherited, it's less likely that a very high percentage will go back to society. In the case of China, they're all first-generation fortunes. In the case of India, a lot are. And we're already seeing people like Azam Premji in India, who's a wonderful philanthropist. Now, these countries will have slightly different cultural traditions. They won't go about it the same way. But both of those events were very well attended, and the enthusiasm to learn from our experience and to set their own course really was thrilling for both Warren and I to see.
Well, I'm interested to say that, because the Economic Times of India said that you were given a bit of a thumbs down. India gives in its own way, they said, but it can't write fact checks. It is still ultimately an emerging economy. I just wonder whether there is a fundamentally different mindset in those economies right now. They are still very much building. They want to get to a place where they are economic superpowers, whereas the United States economy and obviously your own business empire, you're more in the business of having established something, wanting to go in a new direction.
Well, the United States has had great philanthropists going back over 100 years, when the United States was poorer than even India is now. And as I said, India has a lot of wonderful philanthropists today who are blazing the way and will set the examples for others. And we had a higher acceptance rate in both India and China than we've had in any event we've done anywhere else in the world.
Before we end, I would like just to ask for your views on the state of the technology industry right now. You're still chairman of Microsoft, not day-to-day executive chairman, but you're still chairman of Microsoft. Is it painful for you to watch Microsoft lose its sort of innovative, field-leading edge?
Well, Microsoft's doing a lot of great work. Microsoft always has some things that are going super well, some things where it needs to do even better. And I look at what they're doing in search. It's quite impressive. I know some of the new products coming along. I know what Xbox was able to do with Kinect. It's a great field.
All true. I would say all true. There are clearly areas where Microsoft has done well in recent years, but and the key, the sort of the phone, the tablet, the handheld revolution, Microsoft has been left behind.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I'd say there's companies doing very good work in that area. I think that the phone has become very software-centric. So whereas about 3 or 4 years ago, if you look what Microsoft was saying, they were saying the phone would become software-centric, that's really taken place. And so it's software approaches that are succeeding there. The idea that reading and media are moving down onto the digital device, that's good news. And Microsoft has to create the best device for those scenarios.
Well, it has to. And right now, the market clearly doesn't believe Microsoft is best positioned to do that. I mean, if you look at valuations, the relative to when you walked away from day-to-day management, valuation of Apple compared with Microsoft, the graph goes like that. I mean, Apple now dwarfs Microsoft in terms of market valuation.
I wouldn't say dwarf.
Apple's tens and tens of billions of dollars more valuable.
Yeah, I think stock prices aren't really the best gauge. Stock prices can go up and down. So I wouldn't use that as a gauge. But I'd be the first to say that there are several tech companies, including Microsoft, including Apple, including Google, who are doing fascinating work. And the importance of software, I think, is more evident to people today than it's ever been. So in my new role, I think about that in terms of software to help kids get educated in a better way or to track health systems in a better way. My chairman role at Microsoft is about 10% of my time, and I give them all the good advice I can come up with.
I want to end on a thought about where it's going next, but just before we finish on Microsoft, does it make sense for Microsoft to pay over $8 billion for a company, a product, Skype, which in essence is a free internet phone system which cannot at the moment turn a profit and which was valued at something like 3 times less only 2 years ago? Does that make any sense to you?
Absolutely. I was a strong proponent at the board level for the deal being done. I think it's a great deal for Skype. I think it's a great deal for Microsoft. The idea of video conferencing is going to get so much better than it is today. Skype actually does get a fair bit of revenue.
Yeah, but it makes a loss. It makes an annual loss.
That's when you're amortizing a purchase price. The operating business is a fairly good business. And the opportunity to take that broad consumer communication, connected in with the future of what the PBX will be, how corporate communications works. Anyway, it'll be fascinating to see how the brilliant ideas out of Microsoft research coming together with Skype, what they can make of that.
Yeah, the Financial Times on the deal wrote this. It said it smacked of corporate desperation. The increasingly tame beast of Redmond, that would be Microsoft, is facing internet irrelevance and it must do something to stay in the game, thus this purchase.
It's a great purchase that a lot of innovation will come out of.
Is the age of the PC coming to an end?
The age of digital, the PC is the tablet. All these digital devices are going to work together. So the importance of software is higher today than ever. And Microsoft writes to everything that software runs on. So you're going to see PCs where saying, is that a tablet, is that a phone? The words are going to change because the innovation is so rapid.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because Ray Ozzie, obviously you know well, who was for a long time Microsoft software chief, and he's left. But as he was leaving, he said, look, we've all got to imagine a post-PC world. He said, we're entering decades of incredible innovation from which we'll emerge with all sorts of connected companions. We'll be wearing them, carrying them, we'll have them on our walls, they'll be all around us. How does that square with your vision of where we are going in the next, say, generation?
Sounds very similar to what was said when Microsoft was founded in 1975.
You alluded to it, and the final thought is this. The Gates Foundation makes this commitment to try to treat all lives as equal, whether they be in the poorest of the poor worlds or in the rich world. How does that translate when we're talking about interconnectivity, the internet world, the digital revolution?
Well, the most important thing in life for a mother is for her child to live. It's for her child to be healthy enough that the child's brain develops. And so I didn't, when I decided what the foundation was going to prioritize, I didn't start with the notion that having microprocessor chips nearby was some human value. We've taken what's most basic and what we all take for granted in rich countries. Our children don't die. We have toilets, we have enough food. So we've taken most of our resources and said we're going to apply it to those basic needs. Now we do have an effort to look at how technology fits into education, because I think education can be revolutionized, and I'd say that about countries at all levels of wealth.
But I find that a fascinating answer, because what you avoided doing there was suggesting, as some people sometimes do, that we're getting to a point where being connected to the sort of World Wide Web is becoming a basic human right. You're not anywhere near there at the moment. Your focus is still on delivering the most basic health care.
Well, if you go to a child's funeral, you should ask them what their priority was. Is it internet connection or something else?
Bill Gates, thank you very much for being on Hard Talk.
Thank you.